So Nancy Pelosi had some comments about the left and who's to blame for the Democrats having horrendous poll numbers at the moment. So let me go ahead and throw that first graphic up there for you, and we'll talk about it. Pelosi blasted progressives for alienating Asian and Hispanic immigrants with, quote, loose talk of socialism. This is in a new book. Reporters Jonathan Martin and Alex Burns' new book, This Will Not Pass, by the way, that sums up the Democrats perfectly, This Will Not Pass, continues to make headlines as the insider account of the end of the Trump administration, as the insider account of the end of the Trump administration dishes the dirt on the 2020 election. Punchbowl News published some particularly spicy excerpts on Friday from House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who was interviewed twice by Martin and Burns for the upcoming book. Pelosi voiced her frustration with having to, quote, beg her Democratic colleagues to give her the gavel yet again, according to the book. The experience of begging for support was wearing on her. Pelosi was the only Democrat in the chamber, the only Democrat alive who had already served as Speaker, who had shown she could do the legislative arithmetic and twist the necessary arms to get things done. Quote, at this point in my life, I don't need this, Pelosi is directly quoted as saying. So before I get to that last quote, let me just comment on that real quick. That is the most entitled thing I've ever heard in my life. So she's been in power since roughly 1786, and her achievements are largely right-wing achievements. Like, for example, she was there during the Obamacare era, and they ushered Obamacare through. Now, on the one hand, you can give credit for that because it is true more people got health care. But on the other hand, Democrats had a supermajority. They didn't get single-payer Medicare for all. They didn't even get a public option. They ended up doing the Heritage Foundation plan, which is a right-wing plan. It keeps the for-profit health insurance companies in control. There she is chest-thumping, talking about her leadership and how great she's been all these years, and I'm the only one with the experience to get these things done. Really? Then why is your approval rating like 25%? People don't like you, people don't support you, and it's this sense of, no, I'm just entitled to my position in leadership, and God, does that get under my skin. So in other words, you have the slightest bit of pushback, and I mean the slightest bit of pushback from people on the left who are like, hey, maybe it's not the best idea for, her to continue to be the face of the party. And she's like, oh, how dare you? I've been here since Martin Van Buren, and so I deserve this. This is my throne, and it is legitimate that I sit on it. So anyway, let's throw back up that same graphic there. Quote, her victory in holding on to the speakership seemed like a joyless one. Pelosi expressed her frustration with unusual vehemence that day, discussing her political future in a way she rarely did around colleagues. Quote, you couldn't pay me $1 billion to run for speaker again, Pelosi said, to which I reply, good. Let's go to the next graphic. She had some strong words for other members of her caucus. Oh, wait, hold on. Let me go to the other part first. Pelosi told one senior lawmaker that Democrats had alienated Asian and Hispanic immigrants with loose talk of socialism. In some of the same communities, the Italian Catholic speaker said Democrats had not been careful enough about the way they spoke about abortion among new Americans who were devout people of faith. During the infrastructure vote, Pelosi was angry, and in private, she vented about the progressive blockade that had forced her to cancel the infrastructure vote. She told another House Democrat that Pramila Jayapal and Ocasio-Cortez were vying to be the queen bee of the left, but that their reward might be serving in the House minority after the election. So she's blaming everybody else except herself. Now, also, this idea that, oh my God, the abortion issue is the problem. There is literally zero evidence, no polling data, no other evidence, no proof whatsoever that the reason why Democrats are polling poorly at the moment is because of abortion. She just made that up. So in other words, look at the instinct. The instinct is always, it's got to be the left's fault. Now let's find a way to scapegoat the left. Let's find a way to say that they're the reason why I'm unpopular and the party is unpopular. And then she brings up the infrastructure vote. She doesn't even mention that the progressives were correct on the infrastructure vote. They warned, hey, if you pass that traditional infrastructure bill without pairing it with Build Back Better, you know what's going to happen? You're going to get Build Back nothing. You're not going to get anything else through. And all you're going to have is the corporate-friendly milquetoast infrastructure bill. So, and that came to fruition. That was true. And then she's not saying, well, hold on now. It looks like the people to the left were correct. She's blaming them for not, folding sooner? Like, you are the problem, Nancy. You are the problem. Anyway, let's go back to that same graphic again. Additionally, Pelosi had some strong words for other members of her caucus. The longtime leader reportedly criticized progressive leaders in the House for the Democrats' poor showing in the 2020 election, in which the party lost 13 seats. Punchbowl notes that Pelosi privately blamed progressives for nearly costing Democrats the House and said AOC and Jayapal were fighting to be queen bee of the left. In a few strictly confidential conversations, she pointed a finger leftward Martin and Burns right. Okay, so let's continue to the next one. So this is what I wanted to show you guys here. This is Build Back Better, which didn't pass. It went up in flames. And this is what the left was supporting and doing everything they could to get it through. And this is what the corporate Democrats and the so-called moderate Democrats folded on. So look at those numbers. Long-term care investments. You are 79% support. Modernizing K-12 school buildings, 73%. Electricity grid modernization, 74%. Medicare drug price negotiation, 73%. Lowering Medicare age, 59%. Universal pre-K, 59%. Tuition-free community college, 58%. Creating a CCC, 58%. Pathway to citizenship, 56%. Extended child tax benefits. It's at 50% support, but only 41% opposed, so it's plus 9. That is the thing that the left went to the mat for. That's what they said. Let's not separate the infrastructure bill from Build Back Better, because we're not going to get Build Back Better through if we do that. They were correct. They fought for those things. Pelosi had no problem tanking those things, had no problem conceding, had no problem giving into the corporate Democrats in the House, and in the Senate, of course, Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema. So that is the reason why Democrats are not polling well. It has nothing to do with abortion. It has nothing to do with Jayapal and AOC posturing to try to be queen bee of the left. It has nothing to do with any of those things. People don't like you, Nancy Pelosi. People don't like Joe Biden right now. And the fact of the matter is, when was he the most popular? He was most popular when he cut a check to everybody for, what was it, $1,400. Now, that was also a lie, by the way, because he said he'd do $2,000, and then he lowered it to $1,400 and said, in a weaselly way, well, Trump already gave you $600, so when you add them together, that equals $2,000. So that was weaselly, that was messed up. But the fact of the matter is, turns out when you give the American people $1,400 checks, when times are tough, they go, I kind of like this, and I kind of like you, if you help get this through. And so that's why at the time, Biden had like a 54% approval rating, and the Democratic Party brand was flying high. Now, since then, they've done Dickie McGee's acts to help people. And as a result of that, the party's image has plummeted, and Joe Biden's approval rating has dipped as low as 38% in some polls. I mean, I think his average is like between 40 and 42%, but that's abysmal. Now, notice, they are one-trick ponies. Whenever, the public turns on Pelosi and Biden and the rest of them, they immediately point fingers at the left. Notice something, and this is incredible. Why hasn't Pelosi, why hasn't Biden, why haven't they pointed their fingers at the guy who literally tanked the rest of Build Back Better and who lied about, I'll come around and support it? Joe Manchin. Why haven't they pointed the finger at Kyrsten Sinema? They are the ones who have agreed with the Republicans on the big ticket items. And there's no finger pointing in that direction. Now, among the public and among the left, a lot of us go, yeah, it's them. But no, what do? It's always left punching, 100% of the time. Now, by the way, don't get me wrong. Do I have my criticisms of AOC and Pramil Jayapal? Of course I have my criticisms of them. But, the difference is my criticisms are substantive. They're not made up. Like, they're, really loose on the issue of abortion, and the majority of the American people don't like that. Actually, any polling I've seen on abortion seems to indicate the exact opposite, that the majority of the American people are pro-choice. And so why would abortion be an issue where it's, you're really alienating Hispanic voters, you're really alienating Asian voters? This idea, this is all they have, is left punching. That's all they have. And again, there are legitimate criticisms of the left, but it's not the reason why the Democratic Party is not popular. The reason why the Democratic Party is not popular is because they don't stand for anything. So they made a bunch of decent promises on decent political issues, universal pre-K, free college, lower prescription drug prices, extended child tax benefit, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and you didn't deliver on them. Of course people aren't going to like you after that. But notice, policy is not even in the conversation. It's not even in the conversation at all. Well, the only thing they bring up is abortion, and like I said, that's made up. But, okay, so look at the way the game is played. Whenever something goes wrong, whenever Democrats are not viewed favorably, you always punch left, even though the left is not the dominant strain in the party, and even though it's not their fault. And so it's a vicious cycle. So now every single time that things go wrong for the Democrats, no matter what you're doing, no matter how conservative the Democratic Party is acting, the establishment of the Democratic Party, their answer is always going to be, we got to go even further right. We got to become even more moderate. We got to become even more centrist. And so it's a vicious cycle. And so it becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy. You never get the actual moment of evaluation where you go, well, hold on now. We've been acting in a conservative fashion. We've been acting in a moderate fashion all these years, and we have nothing to show for it. They act like they sincerely act like Bernie Sanders won the presidency and he is president right now. And like AOC is the leader of the party and Pramila Jayapal is the leader. They act like that's the world we live in. They act like, you know, we implemented Medicare for all and a free college and people turned around and said, I really don't like this. That's how they act. But guys, this is your failure. You have to own it. And by the way, even on the electoral thing, like, oh, see, we didn't do well in this election. I remember back in 2018, you know how many Democrats won if they ran on Medicare for all? Every single one of them. Not a single Democrat who ran on Medicare for all, even in swing districts, even in so-called purple districts, they all won re-election. Now, why was that not a data point of like, well, obviously going left on economics is the way to win? They never said that because they don't believe that or they're liars. Because the fact of the matter is, we all know Nancy Pelosi's very similar to Hillary Clinton, very similar to all the corporate Democrats. She's swimming in donor cash. By the way, that's one of the main reasons why she's been the head of the party for so long. Because she's swimming in donor cash. She can raise the most money from big financial interests, from lobbyists, from corporations, from billionaires. And that's what gets you to the top of the party. And so look at how disgusting it is. Look at how disgusting this situation is. The most corrupt people, the least popular, they are the faces of the party. And it's always the left's fault. No matter what the facts, it's always the left's fault. Blame the left, blame the left, blame the left. Let's go further right. And then guess what? You're going to get shellacked even worse now. Because your answer to the problems is to do even more of the problem. Do even more of the thing that made you unpopular in the first place. So it's so astounding. And again, I'll end on this point. It's a point I'm reiterating here, but the entitlement too of Pelosi. Like, she's upset that it was difficult for her to regain the speakership. But nobody likes you. Nobody likes you. Your approval rating is 20-something%. If you actually cared about the good of the country and the good of the party, you'd be like, look, I want to be speaker, but I got to step down. Why do I have to step down? I mean, nobody likes me. So as long as I'm the face of the party, we're in trouble, aren't we? And it's true. There's so many ads. Republicans get to run so many attack ads in districts totally unrelated where they go after Pelosi because she's the easiest punching bag in the world. Because, you know, she doesn't do anything popular. So, of course, that's... Anyway, you can tell I'm worked up about this, but the bottom line is Nancy Pelosi is a spoiled brat. She feels entitled to be the face of the party, even though she's deeply unpopular. And as she drags down the party, she's pointing the finger at everybody else to her left, never at anybody to the right. And so it's the same game over and over and over. Again, that's not to say I don't have criticisms of AOC and Pramila Jayapal, and of course I have criticisms of them, but it's a disingenuous argument to always point in that direction when they are not responsible for the current failure of the Democratic Party and the numbers being so low. What's responsible for that is you not getting Build Back Better passed. If Build Back Better was passed and those provisions were implemented, people would have seen a material improvement of their life and they would like you a lot more. That's the bottom line. Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.